Good day, students. Just as our boy, Dr. Ratio, has embarked on a mission to disseminate knowledge through the galaxy, so have I embarked on a similar mission. To spread my knowledge and enrich each and every one of you, so that you can make the most informed and correct decisions for your accounts. And today, we're going to start with the ultimate pull guide in order to be able to clear MOC 12 moving forward with ease and with the least amount of stellar jades consumed. So sit down, open your notebooks, and sharpen your pencils, as today's class is hereby in session. First of all, let's start with some obvious disclaimers. This guide is first and foremost intended for F2P players, unless your name is Tectone or M-Tashed. Seriously, the amount of luck these two have is unreal, as well as small spenders. Whales can also follow the guidelines, but generally the multiple E6S5 characters you have are already clearing all the content for you. Even though your favorite unit is not present in my pull recommendation, that does not mean it cannot clear MOC 12. It just means that the units recommended can clear it easier and with a relative lower investment level, be it relic stats, eidolons, light cones, or teammates needed. This guide should be treated as securing the foundation of your account, as all units present in it can already clear the MOC and will be able to clear it in the future unless something major changes. They can work synergistically with each other and will most likely work with the new units as well. Finally, keep in mind that there is most likely an Arlen Zero cycle video somewhere out there on the internet, so if you just use your brain, you should be able to clear all the content in the game, but again, this guide is intended to minimize the effort needed while allowing you to use the Stellar Jade to pull for your favorite units going forward. With those out of the way, let's start by addressing how this guide is different from all the other guides out there already. It's simple. While the other guides are focused on the respective power of each character, I dared to do the unthinkable. I looked. More specifically, I looked back at all the past MOC cycles to see each stage's enemy lineup and their weaknesses, and what I found, I believe, was quite interesting. Based on my findings, the most element encountered so far in MOC starting from 1.0 until now is ice, which has been found 55 times, followed by imaginary 44 times. Which was quite a surprise, as I was expecting quantum and imaginary to be the first two elements used, but quantum is not even the third element used. It's all the way to the bottom of the list, tied with lightning at 35 encounters and just above physical at 32 encounters. But I did not stop here. I decided to check just floor 10 or, most recently, floor 12 and see which elements were the most used elements there, as this is objectively the hardest floor as well as the biggest wall for everyone to climb. And once again, the results were shocking, given the fact that wind was the most used element in MOC 1012, appearing in each cycle of MOC starting with 1.1, where it was present on both sides of floor 10, until today for a total of 7 times. It is followed once more by ice and imaginary, each of them with 5 appearances, while the bottom position is held by lightning with just 1 appearance on floor 10 from 1.0 until today. Some other interesting finds. The percentages of a single element weakness being present in either side of any floor of MOC and of a triple element weakness have dropped massively since 1.1, reaching a chance of encountering them of only 13% and 0%, respectively, in the last patch, while the percentage for a stage to have a double element weakness drastically increased each patch, and for the last 2 patches there was an 88% chance for either of the rooms to have a dual element weakness, which indicates that Hoyoverse intends to steer the meta in a double DPS team direction. And another thing to note, more on the amusing side, was that there were 4 times when the banner unit was of a different element compared to all the elemental weaknesses present in floor 10 on either side. Jing Yuan 1.0, Fuxuan 1.3, Sealy rerun 1.4, and the Kafka rerun in 1.6. which goes to show that the mentality MOC is designed around the banner units is not entirely true each time. So, what can we extrapolate from these? Well, I've come to the following conclusions, namely, that the best elements to have your main DPS be are either ice, wind, or imaginary, as these are the most encountered elements so far, while quantum, lightning, fire, and physical are best suited for support, sustainment, or secondary DPS. Now that we have the elements established for each role, let's go over some additional things a unit must have in order to make the list of recommended units. DPS units should have the ability to have fluidity in their damage distribution. For example, destruction units are doing damage to both one primary target and two additional targets, making them good in both AoE and single-target scenarios, which is what we are looking for in a future-proof unit. So most hunt units will struggle in the long run unless they can one-shot one target, so they can move quickly from one unit to the next. A DPS unit should also have plenty of self-buffing capabilities, as the meta will shift to a dual DPS scenario. Removing one support from the team might hinder the potential of some units, compared to the units that can self-buff like Jingliu or Daniel. In the same way, a DPS unit that can amplify its own damage and the damage of the secondary DPS is also very desirable, as it allows for an overall increase in team DPS, not just personal DPS. For supportive units, units that affect the core mechanics of the game are the most desirable here. In case you don't know what the core mechanics of the game are, to recap, they are the action bar, so any unit with speed manipulation or action advancement in their kit. Skill points bar, enabling your team to cycle their skills uninterrupted, especially a dual DPS core, energy generation to access the ultimate abilities, and elemental weakness bar of the enemies. Sustain units like Luocha, Fuxuan, and Huohuo are included in the support category. Debuffer units are units that have either single-hit or multi-hit debuff abilities in their kit. What makes a unit more attractive than others in this category are units that can affect as many enemies as they can deal with in both single-target scenarios and multi-target scenarios. While the ease with which they can apply their debuffs is also important, units that have innate debuffs in their kit just from being present in the field, or if their debuffs are guaranteed to land regardless of the opponent's resistances, are also more desirable than the rest. And of course, units that also affect the core mechanics of the game are extremely valuable for your account. Currently, the only such actions are Silverwolf's weakness implant mechanic and Welt's speed and imprisonment mechanic. Dot-based DPS, Black Swan and Kafka. Crit-based DPS, Jingliu, Imbibitor or Doctor Ratio, Argenti, Blade, and Topaz. Sustain, Fuxuan, Huohuo, Luocha, and Lynx. Support, Bronya, Ruin Mei, Sparkle, and Tingyun. Debuffer, Pela and Silver Wolf. As you can see, there are also some 4 stars present in the list, which I am strongly advising you to start building if you have them, or aim for a banner that has them and one of the desired 5 stars, namely Tingyun, Pela, and Lynx. In this next section, I will briefly go over each unit and why he or she is there. Sparkle for directly influencing the action bar with her action advance from her skill, and also by both generating skill points with her ultimate and increasing the maximum amount of skill points for your team, therefore affecting 2 core mechanics of the game. She also has a team-wide damage buff and a crit damage buff on her skill. You can look at her as Bronya on steroids. Why Argenti, full AoE kit, but also amazing single-target DPS with the 2nd level burst. Physical is a very common element in Forgotten Hall, and he is amazing in Pure Fiction as well. Why Kafka? Great AoE and single-target DPS, dot archetype enabler, and with the release of Black Swan, they will make one of the strongest DPS duos in the game. She is also synergistic with the follow-up roster for some fun team compositions. Why Topaz? Great single-target DPS, amazing follow-up buffer, enabling the double and triple DPS comp for follow-up teams. Why Fuxuan? The most broken unit in the game, she makes your team unkillable and also buffs the crit rate of your entire team innately and the crit damage as well via the relic set. She is also a good AoE quantum breaker. Why Ruin Mei? The most versatile support, has speed, damage, and weakness break efficiency boosts, which are all amazing buffs. Also has access to the all-type resistance pen, one of the most broken damage buffs used by all team archetypes while being skill point positive on top of all. And if that wasn't enough, she can trivialize the simulated universe content. Why Bronya? Turn manipulation, amazing attack, damage and crit damage team-wide buffs appreciated by all hyper-carry comps. She will most likely be paired with Sparkle after her release to buff your hyper-carry to infinity and beyond. Why Jingliu? The most broken damage unit in the game, she gives herself a massive amount of free crit rate and attack. She can also action advance herself on her own. She is skill point neutral, great in AoE and single target. All in all, a very hard kit to power creep. Why Silver Wolf? Amazing debuffer enables you to ignore elemental weaknesses, effectively saving you a ton of gems by forcing one team in every piece of content until the end of time. She also provides the highest number of debuffs when attacking one enemy, making her an amazing partner for Dr. Ratio. Imbibitor is a great imaginary DPS. At the top of the rankings, he is a bit under Jingliu at E0, but takes over Jingliu at E2, so everyone out there who is willing to drop this kind of investment on him will not be disappointed. And he will be stronger with the release of Sparkle as she fixes most of his issues, especially the skill point consumption one. Dr. Ratio is an alternative for those who want to save pulls and not go for Imbibitor, as he is given for free. He is currently the strongest single-target DPS in the game, can handle Mosi 12 comfortably, and has great synergy with both Topaz and both Pila and Silver Wolf. He's also easy to build around, as he gets a ton of crit stats from his traces. Black Swan will be Kafka's long-awaited partner in crime, with a very synergistic kit for the dot archetype. Being able to reduce the enemy's defense through her skill will boost both her personal damage and the damage of the other members of the team as well. Also, being of the wind element means she will be valuable in the long run for the later stages of MOC. Blade, the secondary DPS unit we have for the wind element, is a unit that can be used for dual hypercarry. Alongside Jingliu, he also has great self-buffing and self-healing mechanics in his kit, and is entirely a skill point positive DPS. Why Pela? She provides an amazing AoE defense down debuff, which is appreciated by all archetypes, as stacking more defense removal does not have diminishing returns. The more you have, the more your damage is increased. She is also one of Jingliu's best supports, as she reduces the enemy's ice resistance and can also remove a buff from an enemy with her skill. This ability is extremely valuable, as the only other options for removing buffs from enemies present in the game are through Luocha's ultimate or the Hunt Battle Pass light cone. Why Tingyun? The best 4-star available in the game, she is amazing for both a traditional hypercarry team, but also for a dot team or even a follow-up composition, as the buffs she provides are universally desired by each type of team archetype. She is, for all intents and purposes, a 5-star in disguise and the equivalent of Bennett from Genshin. If you build her, you will use her until they release her true 5-star variant, which hopefully will bring even more to the table. Why Lynx? Recently made into a free unit, she is an amazing sustain unit, which will serve you amazingly as the solo sustain in all team archetypes. She greatly benefits from her Eidolons, but can do fine without them. Her and Blade are also an amazing duo. Luocha. skill point positive sustain unit by being able to heal and cleanse a unit at the same time for free. He can also AoE dispel buffs from enemies, including the revive buff present on enemies. Ludicrous amount of heals from his talent. Being from the imaginary element is also amazing, as imaginary is one of the more popular elements in the last floors of MOC. He turns into a Swiss knife through his eidolons, but they are mostly overkill, as he does his job insanely well out of the box. Why Huohuo? A side grade of Luocha, she also provides amazing healing through her talent and skill, but she loses in skill point consumption unless you are willing to invest in her E1. The attack and energy buffs provided by her ultimate are also appreciated by every team archetype, making her a universal choice for all teams. And finally, in the last section, I will go over some of the team archetypes that can be built using these units. Do note that since all the units in the list are highly synergistic with each other and with the other units present in the game, there are many more possible variants. Therefore, apart from these, I encourage you to mix and match as you see fit. Hypercarry Variant 1. This variant is intended to buff the main DPS through all the other units present. An example of such a team: Fuxuan, any crit-based DPS, Bronya, and Sparkle. Hypercarry with debuffs. This variant swaps one of the two supports from the first variant for a debuffer to boost your damage through the debuffs present, mainly the defense down one. An example here will be Fuxuan, any crit-based DPS will work, but Dr. Ratio will benefit from this archetype the most. Bronya or Sparkle, Pila or Silver Wolf. Hypercarry Variant 2. This variant is intended for more consistent breaks and faster ult rotations. An example of this variant will be any sustainer, any damage dealer, Ruin Mei, and Ting Yun. Dot archetype. This one is more straightforward, as you are looking for at least 2 dot damage dealers. Ruan Mei is the solo support, as her team-wide buffs are amazing for this comp with any sustainer to keep your team alive. The premier archetype for this will be Huohuo or Luocha, Black Swan, Kafka, and Ruan Mei, but you can also run Pela for more defense down instead of Ruan Mei, or Lynx as the sustainer for a more budget-friendly variant. Dual crit DPS team, Fuxuan, Jingliu, Blade, Bronya, or Sparkle. This variant capitalizes on the synergy between Blade and Jingliu, as well as the good skill point economy you will have considering only Bronya will be skill point negative out of all of them. Follow-up team, Fuxuan, Dr. Ratio, Topaz, Bronya, or Sparkle. This team comp, like the one before, is built on the synergy between the two main damage dealers and on the amazing buffs provided by either of the support choices. If you feel skill points are an issue, you can switch to a Topaz basic rotation if you are using Bronya or throw in Sparkle to solve it completely. Triple follow-up variant 2, Fuxuan or Luocha, Topaz, Dr. Ratio, and Kafka. This team is a bit more on the fun side, but considering all 3 damage dealers have synergy with each other, and they complement their kits very well, you can make it work with a skill point positive sustain unit, and by weaving a Topaz basic in when needed. And now let's demonstrate how some of the archetypes provided in this chapter will fare against the current MOC 12. I will go for a Hypercarry with the debuffs team on the first side, and for Hypercarry Variant 2 with Dr. Ratio on the second side.
Eyes in the sky, gazing far into the night. I raise my hand to the fire, but it's no use, 'cause you can't stop it from shining through. It's true, baby, let the light shine through. If you believe it's true, baby, won't you let the light shine through for you, 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 won't you let the light shine through? In the sky, gazing far into the night. I raise my hand to the fire, but it's no use, 'cause you can't stop it from shining through. It's true, baby, let the light shine through. If you believe it's true, baby, won't you let the light shine through for you, for you, for you, for you, for you, for you, for you,
That's it. This is my pulling guide for MOC, but I believe it will serve as a base for pure fiction as well. But more on that in another video. I will also go more in depth by addressing the eidolons and light cone recommendations in an upcoming video, so stay tuned for that. But until then, let me know how many of you already have the units mentioned in the video, or which units have you used to constantly clear MOC so far, or even if you are currently doing the MOC. I wish you good luck, and may each and every one of you have a 36-star cycle clear moving forward. Until next time, I am Professor Veritas Ratio, and remember, stay smart and sexy.